This is going to be a quick video just about the flight fins. Now that I've had a little bit more time with them, I'm a little more familiar with them, and I can give you a little bit of pointers to be a little more comfortable and safe with them. And on day one, I hinted at some trick that I figured out. I still haven't seen anybody else do it. It's not that hard, but I'm going to go ahead and do it in this video. I tried to film it on day one, but it just didn't look right, and it was a little bit hard to figure out what I'm doing, but I'll go into a little bit more detail here. Might as well start off with that. That's something fun that I think everybody can do, and I haven't seen anybody else do it yet. And that is to do a flat ground fin jump by using only the back fin, only one fin. So you can take your foot, move it all the way to the front, out from underneath the front fin, and what you're going to do is kind of do the same motion as you would with a bonk. Because you're going to push down on the nose, lift the rear, but you can lift your front foot completely off the board as long as you get it back in time for the sensor to take effect, and you can jump the board without using the front fin. It's handy in a few situations. One is if you're going to use a fin-assisted bonk, is what I would call it at this point, is you're going to actually hit an obstacle and do a bonk, but you're also going to accentuate it with your fins. So you're doing a traditional bonk that would work without a fender or fins, but while you're in the air, you can lift your knees up and give it some extra juice. You can do that a lot without even using the front fin. If you've seen some of my 180 bonk videos down drops, I'm not using if you slow-mo it or pay attention, I'm not using the front fin at all, but I am using, actually in those I wasn't using either fin, but sometimes I'll use the back fin to kind of stabilize it. So let me see if I can show you what I'm talking about with that, and then I'll give you some other tips on some of the other things that'll be helpful. So it's as easy as it sounds. I think you'll get used to it real quick. So you're basically going to put your foot a little bit further forward. As you go along, you're going to keep kind of kicked back like you would for a regular bonk. If you go too far forward, you're going to just fly off the nose. And if you keep rolling off the nose when you fail, then that's what happened. You got to get a little bit back towards the tail. So you're going to push down with the nose and lift with the back, and the board will actually come off the air. So I'm going to put my foot way far forward on here so you can see that I'm not using the front fin. And a little sloppy. You can do them fast, you can do them slow, you can do them at a stop, complete stop. The board will get off the ground without using the front fin. So that's kind of nice. I think for most people, the back fin is a little more comfortable, a little more natural, because a lot of people don't mind riding with their foot fairly close to the fin or to the fender. So it's kind of natural to just dock that back foot under the fin. The front foot feels a little weird with your feet really close. So you can still do a lot of things with having your front foot out front. You can bonk things. You can even do little jumps without using it. And that's exactly what I said would happen if you lean too far on the front. And sometimes the sensor just doesn't kick in. So you want to kind of be careful with these things. Even with regular double fin jumps, if you're moving fast and that front foot doesn't quite hit the sensor right as you land, and especially if you're going too slow, you can tumble. One good thing, I'm going to give you a really good hint just in general for one-wheel riding, especially with tricks. Your sensor, anytime you're within a couple miles an hour, a fairly slow speed, anything you do with a one wheel, it'll basically dismount you if you don't have both feet flat on that fender. So you're trying to do a trick, a shove it, or whatever, and the board keeps shutting off on you. It's because the board is kind of in a ready mode, waiting for you to dismount. If you go a little bit faster, you got to carry a little bit of speed. And I don't know how fast it is in miles per hour, but it's somewhere about this fast. It's not super fast, but it's not really slow either. And then the board will continue. And one way you can test that is get going pretty fast and jump off the board. If it keeps going, and see, it keeps going like that until it reaches a certain speed, and then it realizes you're not on the board, and it stops. So that's a good way to get a sense of how fast the board will go when you're not on it, if you're doing a trickster while you're in motion. And that's important for the flight fins because if your front foot gets a little wonky or loose and you land while you're going slow, the board's just going to stop. It's frustrating. You look silly. Nobody wants to look silly. So let me give you some hints, some tips about just general fin jumps. I think everybody wants to get air. That's the main point behind these things. I can get into subtleties. You guys have probably already noticed that it's really nice when you when you've got your back foot docked, it doesn't need the front foot at all. You can tilt the board so nicely into carves, lean way into a corner. It makes it a little bit more easier and even more natural than without the fin. So uh, get it. The first thing that we're going to have to figure out, there's been some debate about this on the forums, and I think I'm actually going to correct myself, call myself wrong. I was saying that it felt like with fin jumps, you wanted to have the nose down a little bit when you land, nose forward, rather than tail back or flat. And the more I jump with it, the more I find that nose forward is okay, and it kind of helps you get your foot on the sensor. That may have been why it was working well for me, but the board doesn't really like it that much. And if you're quiet and you listen, you'll hear the grunt. And anytime the board's grunting real hard, the motor's working and trying to correct for something you did, and it doesn't seem to like it. And again, you're going to have to get used to the way you lean your body too. But what I found so far that I think is the best, as far as when you get back on the ground, is everything level. Front board completely level. You don't want to be leaned any direction at all because it has a chance of taking your foot off the sensor and the board struggles. So I'm going to just completely back myself up off of the nose forward. I don't think nose forward really works. Plus, it's not as safe. If you're too tail back, the board will just slide a little bit on the tail. It's not a big deal. It doesn't look that great. But the best is just flat. Boom, just flat. And there's a little bit of a grunt there. If you could see it, you might be able to hear it. I was a little bit front heavy. If you're completely flat, it just goes donk with a slight kick in for the motor. So you get nice and flat. I don't know if you could hear that or you didn't hear it because it was nice and flat. That one was not. That one was a little bit, we'll call it nose heavy because I was riding backwards. So get a little comfortable with that. A little bit nose heavy. So I guess another thing is to, just like with any other type of landing, be soft on the knees, be ready. If you land stiff-legged, the board's going to work harder. It's got more possibility of kicking you off. So all of this applies to 180s. You're going to find it really frustrating at first because you're going to be thinking, oh, it's so easy. I've got fins. All I got to do is jump up in the air and turn 180. You do, but you're going to find that your natural tendency under certain directions is going to be to put nose or tail heavy. For me, if I go backside, I tend to go nose heavy. So if I do a backside 180 and then just like that, nose goes heavy, even though I wasn't planning on doing that. Front side, that one seemed to be nose heavy. But you're going to find that it's much more comfortable if you're able to keep the board flat. And it's challenging. It's going to be something that's going to take you some time to get used to. So practice. And, for me, I don't know, maybe it's just mentally, I seem to have a better time of it while moving than while still. And actually, I think part of that is that when you're moving, you can get a little cheat. I'm all for a cheat that works, that looks good. So what I mean is, you're talking about 180-degree air jump, ollie, fin jump, whatever. You're not, if you cut those degrees a few to where you're not fully turning a full 180, it's going to make it slightly easier. So you're going forward, you just start to pitch the nose in just a little bit on a backside. So as you're going, start to pitch it, then you're not turning a full 180. It's slightly easier. And then still the same thing applies as far as trying to get the board completely flat before you land or close enough, and so you roll out. So tail heavy is fairly safe. So I'm trying to do a bunch of these in a row while talking. It's getting me winded, but you get the idea. Do a lot of this. I'm doing it in grass because it's easier on the board. I know it's got to fall a bunch of times, and because I want you guys to start getting used to doing things on the grass. If you're learning it on concrete, you're not going to have the confidence to do what you want to do and know that you're going to be safe. So get used to grass. Grass is your buddy. This is a all-terrain type vehicle. Find some little hills like this. These are fun. You come up. If you haven't already been doing these are kind of fun where you roll up and like, do a little slash where you put the tail in. But now you can do it with the FlightFins with a jump in instead of just rolling in. Do a little, make sure you put a nose down, tail down, and have some fun with these things. Somebody was asking me, they saw me post a video without the FlightFins, say, oh, what happened? You get rid of the FlightFins? No, I got 3 boards. I had the fins on 2 of the boards. One of them I had to remove to tighten the hub bolts. And I left the fender off for now, but I think I'm always going to have at least one board with the fins and at least one without. Because there's a lot of things that are fun with the fins. Trail riding is just so much fun with these things. You hit obstacles where you'd have to do the pickup and step over the obstacle walk of shame, where now you just jump over it or nudge over it, roll up to something big, just lift the back fin, roll right over it, and it's a lot of fun. I think that's where you're going to find the most fun with these things is going to be on trails. So hope this helps a little bit. If you guys have any other requests, anything you'd like to see related to the fins or anything else, put something in the comments. I'm happy to throw together a video. There's no edits here. This is just a one take, but hopefully this will help some people out. And I don't think I put this in any of the YouTube videos, so I'm going to do it here. When you're mounting your fins, take a look at where my front fin is here. This is the first install that I did. If you have a factory fender, this one's pretty much lined up with the inside seam. It's just a cosmetic seam of the way these things are made. This is too far in. My second board, I mounted it pretty close to the second seam. Not quite, but it was hanging over. I've found that having it this far inward is a little awkward on my foot. It goes in too close to the crook of your ankle, and it's pretty uncomfortable. But moving it over maybe an inch, maybe not quite an inch, a little bit further this way, and the outside edge of the fin will actually hang off a little bit. It won't be flush against the fender, is more comfortable. So if you haven't drilled your holes yet, I hope you'll give that a shot, move it out a little bit further. It's maybe about an inch from the outside edge of the board. This is about 2 inches from the outside edge of the board. And so yeah, this is not preferred. The next time I take this fender off, I'm going to move these bolt holes about an inch forward towards toe side. So that's what I recommend. So far, I haven't seen anybody do that and not prefer it. On the back, it's not as important. On the back, mine is further in, and I like it like this. But on the front, for some reason, it digs into my ankle, and that's not that comfortable. So I hope this helps. If you have any other questions, feel free to hit me up.